Hello, beautiful people. I am excited to be back with you as always. And we are in week 6 of our Triumph Together challenge, and it has continued to build and build and build. I am having such an amazing time having great conversations with my co authors, but also just getting a chance to reread the Triumph in the Trenches anthology and find new insights that come every time that I read a chapter. So excited to be a part of this. Excited to be partnering with you all. We may be able to get one of the co-authors to join us in a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and kick off and get started. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, welcome. I'm really glad to have you. And for those of you who've been riding with me for a while, I appreciate you. Excited that you were able to make the time to join me today. If you are joining me live on LinkedIn or on YouTube, or I believe we're also streaming live on Instagram now, go ahead and drop your city in the chat. Drop your city in the chat, and then I can know who's vibing with us, who's with us on the live. But if you're listening on the replay, I love that for you, and I also love that for me. The replay has been doing amazing things, and I think the Triumph Together challenge has really amplified it. So folks are going back and listening to, we're at week 6, so they're like, okay, well, I'm just joining on week 6, so I got to listen to week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which I absolutely love. It is never too late for you to join the challenge. Each chapter in the anthology is its own individual treasure trove of information, specifically coming from that author. So no matter when you join the challenge, you're right on time. So all it takes for you to join the challenge, I'm going to get this out of the way and we're going to get right into the substance here. All it takes is for 1, you to follow me on LinkedIn. 2, to grab a copy of the Triumph in the Trenches anthology. I have my copy here, and y'all will start to see it's getting worn in because she gets a lot of love and a lot of attention. I want to make sure that everybody has the right link to be able to travel to get that. So you can find the copy on gemsforthejourney.org/triumphs, and you can go grab your copy for just $29. Take advantage of that, and then you can read through the anthology with us. Now, big announcement that is new information. We are also going to have an ebook of the Triumph in the Trenches, and that is coming a little bit later on this month, actually. So you guys will start to see that available on my website, and it'll give you all of the same context that you had in the hard copy, but you'll have it in the ebook. It'll be on your mobile phone, on your tablet, on your e-reader, whatever device you use to be able to read digitally. You'll be able to take advantage of it there, because we want to make sure that everybody has access to it. And we are trying to make sure that you get the things, because these are some really great, valuable things. There's so many gems in this book. So, and then finally, you join the challenge, right? You get the copy of the book, you follow me on LinkedIn, and then you sign up for the Gems for the Journey newsletter that is absolutely free. It's no cost to you. It is a monthly newsletter that gets dropped directly into your inbox with focuses on career, focus on key reads and perspective shifting reads, just really great assets that my team and I have put together so that you don't have to do any of the work scrolling the internet to find really top tier career guidance and advice. So please do take advantage of that. And then lastly, the person who does the most, right? And I love doing the most. I'm here for doing the most. But those who are actively engaged in the challenge will get the opportunity to join me. You'll be entered into a drawing to join me here on the Gems for the Journey live on LinkedIn and YouTube, or you'll also be able to join me on the podcast. So it really is your preference. So just as an incentive, if you have some perspectives that you want to share and you've been following me on this platform or whatever platform you're listening, we would love to bring you on as a guest because we think you have some value to contribute also if you've been participating in this challenge with us. So I got all the housekeeping out of the way. You guys know I like to run fast once we start to get into the content. So I want to make sure that I get all those things done so I don't get any, my team doesn't give me a hard time about not having taken care of something I was supposed to have taken care of. So we're in week 6 of the Triumph Together challenge, and we're going over chapters 11 and 12. So I just have to tell you guys, this experience for me was one that kind of felt like I was reliving some of my previous corporate experience, and in a good way, in the best way possible. Because Nairi, my co-author, really talked about leading from as a Black woman in HR. And when I tell you that she really brought the fire when she was just discussing what her role was as an HR leader, a lot of times, and I hear a lot of you tell me all the time, can we really trust HR? Are HR just basically internal police to the organization? What's the relationship we should have with them? How should I go about it? So I make sure that I'm not exposing myself or putting myself in any additional risk, or that I'm not giving out information unnecessarily to someone who's then going to go and just share it back with my manager or share it back with someone when I told them in confidence, right? So it's something that lots and lots of people are trying to figure out and navigate. So I was happy, super, super excited that Nairi shared her perspective, and she really was keeping it 100 with us. So first, she just talks about her personal experience in navigating, negotiating for pay equity inside of her organization for Black and Brown employees, and how important it is as an HR professional to use your voice and to be thoughtful and to lend your voice to topics that are important to you, because they may affect you directly, right, as an HR professional. But I want to take a pause here because I need to say this just for posterity's sake, I guess. I have gotten the opportunity to work with some of the most amazing HR professionals throughout my career. I mean, phenomenal professionals who have not only, made sure that I was aware of the policies and procedures, right, which is kind of the formal part of the role, but also let me know that as a leader, here are the things that are not written. Here are the things that are not in black and white. And here are the things that you have to think about and be mindful of, so that you don't put yourself in a position where you're at the crosshairs in between you and a company. Or if you've made the choice that, listen, you want to be in the crosshairs because this is this important, let me make sure you know what that'll look like on the other side. So I've had some great experiences working with HR professionals in my career, and I feel really fortunate. And I've also had some trash, absolutely terrible, garbage experiences with HR professionals. So I've sat on both sides of it. It sounds like the type of leader that Nairi is the kind of leader that I have had the pleasure of being able to partner with throughout my career. So I'm saying all that to say, it depends on the organization you're in. It depends on the individual. And then a click down, it depends on the individual's priorities. But I would definitely encourage folks to think about building a relationship with someone in HR that they feel like is on the up and up, that they can trust, that can feel good about. Because there's just information that they provide and that they have access to that would make your job easier, would certainly make your career strategy easier, would make your progression easier, would make your dealing with difficult conversations easier if you had that person available. But then she was really, really, really honest about the fact that, and I'll read this quote from her. It was so good. Human resources is an illusionary field. When I was inexperienced, I thought my job was to help employees navigate the workplace. I was disillusioned that I was expected to protect my employer by all means necessary, even if it meant sacrificing good workers. So these are my words. These are coming from my co-author, Nairi Osler. And it just rung a bell for me in such an honest and transparent way, because you do feel like there are people in HR who are literally doing everything at the cost of employees sometimes in these organizations. And that feels unfortunate, right? It feels like they are in a position where they could be helpful. But sometimes they are just the mouthpiece of the executive leaders in their organization. But you will find one or two or maybe even three really great HR professionals that have enough lived experience as well as company experience that they can add a tremendous amount of value to your career journey. And we talked about this on a previous live. Go and make yourself some friends. Go and make yourself some professional friends. And I had HR as one of the departments that we should think about. How do we make a friend in HR, and how can it benefit us? Because there is a lot of opportunity to be able to get information from that source and get some really internal guidance that you may not be able to get otherwise, information you're not going to have access to. So definitely go and read chapter 11. Nairi just talks more and more about her own experience as an HR professional, and where she had to really experience a David and Goliath experience as a leader in HR, who then had to let the company know that there were some things that are happening that were not according to their values, their guidelines, right? And many of us have been in those kinds of discussions where we realize we're at a crossroads here, right? If I take this a step forward, the relationship between me and that company it's probably going to be forever damaged. And I have to figure out, is this something that is worth it? And a lot of times, especially as Black and brown women, in my experience with these companies, we're making a very critical decision that could have a huge effect on our career. But the principle of it is enough to justify taking a step forward, or it's enough to decide, I'm going to take my talents elsewhere. This is not the kind of organization that I want to partner with. I see their choices, I see the evidence of them. I just don't want to be a part of it. So I say all that because it's really important for you to know that you're not alone. You are absolutely not alone in your experience, whether you're having a great experience with HR and it's something that you want to further develop, or whether you're having an experience with HR that you feel like it's compromised, it doesn't feel good, something doesn't feel right, all of your red flags are going off. You are also having an experience that lots and lots of us have had. So Nairi gives some great tips and topics for how to address what makes sense for you specifically. She can't go into your specific situation, obviously, because she doesn't know, but she speaks from her experience and then makes some really strong recommendations at the end of the chapter. I'm just going to read one of her recommendations at the end of the chapter. And in her final words, she says, the biggest thing to know is that the most important work you will ever do will be on yourself. Hard stop. So as we're constantly talking about this on LinkedIn Live, as we're talking about other books that you should read, as we're talking about experiences that you should have in relationships that I recommend you build as someone who gets the opportunity to coach such talented, amazing people who are leading in nonprofit, leading in healthcare, leading in consumer goods, leading in tech. I'm telling you that you're not alone. And as we think about doing the work on professional development, growing for ourselves, figuring out where our pain points are, figuring out where we can further index on our strengths, that is the work on yourself. And that is the most valuable investment you can make. It will always pay dividends on a return. So I love that she called that out. The work on you is the most important work that you'll do. And I encourage you all to take advantage. Now is the time where there's so much information and so many resources, and maybe it's overwhelming, but working with someone directly, a coach, working with someone who's going to give you some insight as well as take on your individual experience can really be a game changer in how you navigate the next 2, 5, 10 years of your career. So I really wanted to encourage folks to think about that. And then in chapter 12, co-author Marvell Adams talks about his experience in creating equity in aging. And this experience really, as I was reading it, there were so many facts, so many data points, just gems that Marvell was sharing about the industry tied to supporting aging people in the United States specifically. And then he talks about the intersection of community and culture, whether it's racial, ethnicity, whether it's all of the other intersectionality that many of us have as we're in our current stage of life and as we will have on for years and years to come. So I loved that. I felt like I learned a lot in reading his chapter and getting a better understanding of the industry and the work that he's done. But he also pulls out what is just like a fire, amazing gem and reference, right? He talks about how he as a individual was, and I'm going to use my own words here, tokenized as a leader in his field in some regard. So he was a leader. He had done excellent work. He had, made tremendous strides. He had added a lot to the industry, added a lot to the sector that he was supporting, which is focusing on aging population. But at the same time, the organization that he was partnering with, he could see the clear signs that they were using his Blackness as the overall representation for diversity. And many of us and many of you have reached out and talked about tokenism or being the first and the only in their organization and how to navigate that and what that feels like. And Marvell just really blows through it and kind of gives us a whole different perspective on how to decide if the environments that you're working in are actually serving you and are you safe as a result of being tokenized or being used as a representative for all things diversity. He talks about his experience as being a C-suite leader and then having all kinds of signals, right? And red flags go off from an in-person experience that he details. I mean, I'm not going to give it away because the words just really transform you into or they transfer you from where you are into another place. Like you can feel the experience that he's having. It's such a vivid description. So he talks about needing to know when to leave, right? And I have a whole blog post on the website, how to know when to go, how to know when this is no longer the right fit for you. Do you continue to push through? Do you double down and invest? Do you stay the course? Or is it time to leave? Is it time to make peace with transitioning out? Because nothing is forever. Certainly not relationships in organizations. They're just not forever. Things change, people's priorities change. People start treating you differently. And there are signs, right? So he goes through the steps of his experience, and I absolutely love it because lots of us are trying to navigate, do I stay in this environment and continue to invest, continue to give this organization my talents, or is it time for me to go? And here is the kicker that everyone knows, I think, at this point. The sleeper in all of this is organizations are constantly evaluating. Is it appropriate for them to stay another year as your employer? Have they made a choice that now it no longer fits for them to keep you on their staff? That's just the reality of corporate America, of many sectors, that there's no guarantee. There's no such thing as ultimate job security. And as you're deciding for yourself, should I continue? Should I make the next step? Should I stay with this organization? Marvell just does so much of the work for us, all the way down to him explaining how he had to write an open letter on LinkedIn about his experience. You have to read the chapter. It is good work, really good work. And I'm going to read one quote that really kind of pushed me. So I did what so many Black people have bravely done before and since. I spoke my truth out into the world at risk of being called a liar or further marginalized. So if that gives you any indication of the intensity of this chapter and his own lived experience, it definitely did it for me. I have heard so many stories of really, of bravery, of courage, of speaking truth to power throughout my own career and in Marvell's chapter and throughout the whole book in Triumph in the Trenches. So hearing those reminders for me are helpful to ground me in. Oftentimes we think that we're alone in these experiences, or we think our organization might be different, or we think if we leave and go to another organization, something might be different. And all of those things can be true. But what's helpful to know is that I, in my sector, in my industry, are having the same experience as someone in another sector, in another industry. So when I'm evaluating these things, I'm not tripping, right? I'm not completely off base. I am not overreacting. I am not going to allow myself to be gaslit. And that's how the decision to make a transition, to make a choice to leave, really comes for a lot of us. Is this is enough, right? This no longer works. It no longer serves me. It no longer benefits me. I'm no longer in a mutually beneficial relationship with my employer or with the board that I'm on or with the nonprofit that I'm supporting, whatever that is. So going back to what Nari suggested, the most important work you can do is on you. The most valuable work you'll do is on you, and it will pay dividends every single time, because that perspective of, is this a mutually beneficial relationship, is something I talk about a lot. And I heard that as an undercurrent threaded throughout both of these chapters. So if you are in a great situation and it feels like it's a great fit, it's still important to always ask yourself the question, every year, every 6 months even, am I still in a mutually beneficial relationship with my employer? Does this continue to work for me? Does it serve me? And does it serve them? If the answer is yes, go forward. Go forward. If it's not, is there something that you can do to correct it? And if not, is it time to make a transition out of that organization? I think it's a good, healthy way just to ask questions of ourselves, because a lot of times we get so buried in the work and we're in execution mode and we're doing the things that we let a lot of things go. We let a lot of things roll off of our backs. And that's necessary, right? No environment's going to be perfect. No environment is going to be perfectly suited to our individual needs. So that's why it's a discussion that you have with yourself. Is it still serving me? If yes, boom, let's go. If not, let me take my journey elsewhere. Let me make my journey work for me. And maybe that means this organization is no longer a fit. So I love the discussion. I loved both chapters and the experiences that are coming from completely different sides. One is completely corporate. Naire's chapter focuses on corporate America. And then um, the more and more I read, the more I could hear some of the similar sentiments from a corporate America tone. And then Marvell's chapter was specifically focused on a smaller sector that I was completely, uninformed on. So I learned a lot just by reading his chapter and getting a better perspective there when you focus on senior living or working with aging adults. So a wide array. And that's what the Triumph in the Trenches anthology has really introduced to me, and why this challenge I thought was so important. Our Triumph Together challenge is because there are people who are listening to this, who are listening to this on the replay and realize my sector is also represented in this book. So there's some gems that I can take specifically from my sector or from an individual who I have a lot in common with. Or there are broad themes that are overarching that apply to different sectors, different regions of the United States. And there's gems that you can take from there and apply to your own experience. So there's just such a rich depth of range of topic as also range of experiences. And I just feel so fortunate to have participated in this anthology. I grew tremendously in participating in it, but I also just learned a lot. And I tell you guys all the time, I like to be in rooms where I am able to learn and grow. And, this is a virtual room that we're in, but this Triumph in the Trenches anthology has absolutely felt like a virtual room that I'm excited to be in. That I feel like there's so much for me to learn and contribute, and it's just a win all the way around for me. So thank you so much to my co-authors, for doing the work, for contributing at this level, and for helping me grow, helping me learn through the experience. So for Nairi Osler and for Marvell Adams Jr., thank you so much for your chapters, chapter 11 and 12. I will be back next week, next Tuesday, Eastern Standard Time. I'll return and we'll be talking about chapter 13 and 14. You don't want to miss this. Please come back and join us then. And until then, make your journey work for you. We will be going on to our next week for the Triumph Together Challenge, and we would love to see you here with us live, or drop your comments if you listen to the replay. If you read any of the chapters up to chapter 12 and you have comments, please do DM me. You can always get a hold of me via DM on LinkedIn, or you can email me at info@gemsforthejourney.org. And I'm excited to see you guys next Tuesday. Until then, make your journey work for you.